Welcome to episode 17 of Out of Bounds, a podcast where I give my social commentary on different topics in today's society. I'm your host, Terry, and today we're talking about a lot of things to talk about, but mainly we're talking about college. This whole idea of college, what it means, is it valuable, and the whole scandal going on. And so I'm going to start off by putting my cards on the table, as I try to do. College is big in my life. Very big. I am a 4-year, public institution graduate, bachelor's degree. I'm currently in a 4-year public school, going for my master's. After graduating, I worked for over 5 years in the public education sector. So education is big for me, specifically post-secondary and what people call quote unquote college. So that's my background. I mean, I got a lot of thoughts on it, a lot to say about it. And so even funny enough, the whole scandal is revolving around admissions, and that's where I currently work during my master's program. So yeah, I got a lot to say about that. I was a college and career counselor, so college is a big part of kind of where I come from. So, number one, I would say let's start with the conversation about college, because it has absolutely changed. Now, the conversation is going to be different between cultural lines. It's going to be different between socioeconomic lines, all these different things. First generation students aren't going to have the same preconceptions as those that are coming from a legacy family and different things like that. So first generation student is a student who is the first in their, not necessarily the first in their family to go to college, but the first generation. So if neither your parents went to college, but your older brother went to college, you're a first generation. So you could be number 10 out of 10 kids going to college. You're still technically first generation, because the generation ahead of you, which is your parents, they didn't go to college. And even if your auntie and uncle and cousins went to college, it's not the same, because we're talking about your immediate family. And so a lot of college kind of depends on the expectations. What has the media set out to be, quote unquote, the college life? What has the family set out to be the college life? And it's big. I mean, expectations mean a lot. As I mentioned before, I do different podcasts and channels. One channel I do is movies. And I've argued in the last year that expectations control everything as far as how you receive a movie. And I think this is true in a lot of things in life. How you expect things to be is going to play a big factor in how you feel. Because if you aren't expecting much, or if you don't know what to expect, then you can easily be surprised and appreciate the different things. But when you're told what it's going to be like and then you go, it's not the same. We can think about Fyre Fest, what you ordered versus what you got, all that type of stuff. But anyway, I think it's just different depending on how you're coming into college as far as what you expect. But I think overall in society, people have painted it as the best 4 years of your life. It's going to be maybe not party central, but it's going to be the best 4 years of your life. You're going to be free, away from your parents. You can do what you want to do. And even if we're not talking about going away to college, because I think college sometimes, or a lot of times, gets the negative idea of people thinking in movies, oh, I'm going to a residential campus, I'm going away, I'm moving away from my family, because that's the vocabulary you're used to. Technically, college can be anything that's post-secondary. And that's the way I try to reframe it for the students I talk with. If you go to a 2-year school locally, if you go to a apprenticeship, if you go to a certificate program, whatever, any education outside of high school is post-secondary. And that's college, technically. That's what the actual conversation should be. But people don't always talk about it. We think of college as in university, big campus, moving into the dorm, parties, all this different stuff. And so what happens is society tells us that your 4-year university college experience is going to be the best 4 years of your life because you're so free to do what you want. Is that true for some people? Yes. Is that true for everybody? No. Look, you can live in Chicago, which is where I'm from, and you can choose to go to UIC, University of Illinois at Chicago. And guess what? You can live 5 minutes from UIC. You can live a 10-minute train ride. And so you living at home, you with your parents, you with your siblings, trying to do homework, maybe working a job on the side. It's not the same as me moving 2 hours away where I can just live and be a part of the school. It can be different for everybody. So that's the first myth. You got to knock this whole idea of what college is down because the media puts it one way. Now, outside of that, people get confused with the education versus the social interaction. And again, I'm in a master's degree that focuses on college. So there's a lot of history and ideas to it, but I will tell you that the biggest thing you got to realize in past history and all the way to today is that the experience is about education in a classroom, but it's more focused in most places with the social development of the student. And so the freedom to choose what to do with your time, the resources to get involved with different programs, to become more active in issues you care about, or to explore things that interest you, to work and earn money when you maybe never had a chance to earn money before. All these different choices and ideas goes into the development of a student becoming a functional human being in today's society. And so that's what it all was once thought to be. Today, what is college thought to be? And what did it become when I first realized what it actually was? It's a place for you to get the necessary paper so you can get a job. And so a lot of people today are talking about debt and how much college costs and all these things. And the funny thing is people don't realize is that the same people talking about how much college costs and complaining are the same people complaining that colleges need more resources. And so as much as I agree with the human part, I have to agree with the business part. You can't sit here and say, well, we need this, this, and this, and it needs to be so individualized, and we need to have resources for specifically every single student, and then at the same time think that we can somehow not be about numbers and be about tuition dollars, because that all that comes from somewhere. But even with all that being said, people have looked at the college experience as an investment, and as it should be. I think that's the right way to say it. A lot of times with students, I would say, hey, look, you say I'm never going to school, never going to college, I don't need it. And it's too much debt, I don't have the money. And I'm like, well, do you have the money on you right now to buy a brand new Audi car right now? No. Do you have the money on you to buy a $500,000 house? No, you don't. And so eventually you're going to have to take out loans and invest in stuff to get the things you want. And I remember having teachers and colleagues since then putting it in that frame where it's like everybody knows, okay, I'm going to have to take out loans and find money for a car. I'm going to have to take out loans and find money for a house. I'm going to have to, find ways to get these clothes and these Jordans. But at college, no, I'm not. That's too much debt. And so I'm not saying that college does cost a lot. I'm not saying that the debt is an issue. But what I am saying is it's funny how people will see that as a problem when it comes to college, but don't see it as a problem with a lot of other things. And so looking at education as an investment is the first step, where you got to understand that you're trying to get something that's going to push you further into the future. Now, on top of that is majors, and that's a big conversation. The biggest problem to me, if you was to say, what's the biggest problem between college and K through 12 in America? Career exploration. People do not know careers. Students do not know careers. We don't know the different range of things you can be. Like, we all can say doctor makes a lot of money. Dentist makes a lot of money. Basketball player makes a lot of money. We can all do that. Lawyer, all these things, but people don't know the extent of different careers. That's the number one problem. But outside of that, just the fact of knowing what careers are out there, when we talk about what is an issue when people come to that in their education, it's picking the right major. Some majors and career paths don't yield to a lot of money. It's just what it is. My current master's degree and working in colleges is not a lot of money. And I had to find that out the hard way. And there's different things I got to do to circumvent that. But the fact is, people have to learn what careers mean something. But that's a two-edged sword, because I worked again in the public system. And most of the time, what students tell you when you ask, what do you want to be? Is one of two things. It's something that's super high paying, like an architect or a lawyer or a doctor, and they have no idea what it takes to become that. They want to be an architect but can't draw and hate math. They want to become a doctor and can't stand the sight of blood. Like, they want to become a lawyer and hate reading. They don't understand what it takes to become those positions. But they know how much money they make, and so we want the high-paying jobs. So the double-edged sword is, what you choose to go into professionally is going to matter as far as your return on investment. And that's a finance term that has been thrown into college and admissions and everything else. What's my ROI? What's my return on investment? And so the major you pick is going to have a big influence on that. However, as a business student and being through this conversation a lot, what you want to do for a job versus what you want to do for a career can be very different. And at the time, as an undergrad back in the day, I would say job versus career. It was always job is something you do. Career is something that you live. And it was like, okay, that sounded cute. It made sense to me. But even this year, I got more clarity on that. It was like, look, if you are reading articles, keeping up with politics and different things that affect the job and the work you do, if you're going to conferences and to learn professionally and professionally develop, if you're making connections with different people, if you can't put the job away, that's more than likely a career, because it's something you're passionate about. A job, I worked at McDonald's. That was a job. I didn't go home and think, well, what's the most efficient way that we can get these fries and these Chick-fil-A, these fish fillets and these Big Macs out at the same time? Like, no, that's not stuff that I went home and thought about. And so when you bring the job home, when you live it, that's a career. That's no longer a job. A job can make you a lot of money. A job can be something that's secure, but it might not be something that you love and are passionate about. That's what a career is. And so you have to make those decisions. The thing is, we want to coddle this generation more and more as we go through it, because the young adult to adult generation are the ones that got burnt by it. And the ones coming up are the ones burnt by it. We're coming into Generation Z. And the big thing with them is they were the ones that were young and impressionable when the housing burst came or the housing bubble burst. And people saw what, having no jobs were like. People saw what being broke was like. People saw what being, Caucasian privilege with education looks like when you can't get a job. And so this generation is super cognizant of that. They're super cognizant of getting a return on investment. And so working in the missions, I see the strategies, the way we talk, the questions we get, how it is so much centered on what am I going to get out of the university? I'm paying you. What am I going to get? And that's fine. It's a product. You're giving money. What are you going to get out of it? I get that, but it almost becomes a sense where, like most things, we remove the person from the equation. It's like, what is the school going to do to guarantee that I get this return on investment? And we are completely leaving the person out of it, because the person has to understand the balance between what major makes money and what major I love enough to be good at, and what major do I have skills that complement and fit with. So it's a big conversation. It's a big conversation, and it has become more transactional and business-like, because we're in a generation that is cognizant of that and cognizant of being broke, which is nothing new to a lot of disenfranchised people, but it's newer to the mainstream. And so that has changed the way we do things. Now, with all that being said, let's get to the scandal. So as mentioned before, I am working in the missions, which is kind of the opposite side of what I did with high school. So nothing too different. But with that, I'm signed up for these emissions alerts and these different articles. I get this whole thing about the scandal. I'm like, okay, cool. Then I hear a few people hit me up. I'm like, okay, let me read the whole thing. I'm like, okay, still cool. Not too shocked by it. But then I see all these personalities doing shows and talking about it. And I'm like, wow, okay. I never thought this would be such a popular topic. But apparently people are shocked. People are absolutely shocked at what went down with the whole FBI operation, finding out that people were bribing people to get their students into college, or their kids. And it had to do with celebrities and all that. My thing with it is I wasn't shocked because, number one, look at what athletes are given to get into school. Like, the most obvious example, let's start with Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose had somebody take his ACT at the time, or maybe it was SAT for Memphis. They took it for him. It was proven. It was taken for him. He cannot read that well, or at the time. And so they did that, and they had it arranged just so they could get Derrick Rose in. Look, you as an athlete, some people mistakenly think that as an athlete, you get to just come in because we offered you a scholarship. No, you still have to pass the admission standards. You still have different things you got to do. But since your talent is so big, people are willing to cut corners and do illegal things to get you in. i.e. Derrick Rose, number one prospect out of Chicago, can't read, and Memphis has standards. Oh, well, we don't care. Let's find somebody to do it for him and get him in. And that's just one example of many. We got thousands of examples going on in college sports. But the fact is, you're valuable enough to get you in. And so when this came out with the scandal, I'm just like, are people shocked? And a lot of people want to make this a white versus black thing. If you listen to me, I don't do that. Caucasian people, more times than not, are going to have the wealth to do this. Fine, but this is a rich people thing. This is a economic class, socio-economic class type thing. This is not about being white. This is about people who have had the money for long enough. Number one, that feel they can go against the rules. But number two, have had the money for long enough that feel that their status is more important than integrity. That's the biggest thing that lost here. Yes, these celebrities think that they can buy their way out of stuff, and privileged people think they can buy their way out of stuff. But the fact that we're missing is that people think, okay, I'm a loving parent. I just want to provide for my kid. That's not all it is. And again, this is my perspective. I'm not a psychologist or anything, but the psychology don't match up. It's not just, I want the best for my kid, because if you had that much money, you could just pay for them to go to school at a lot of great places. The fact is, you want where they go to reflect on you. In your circles and corners, their kids are going to XYZ. Maybe you went to XYZ and you want to continue a legacy. Maybe you never got into XYZ and you want to prove I'm a great parent because my kid got into XYZ. It is a selfish motivation. It is looking for self-validation outside of you and by everybody else. Hands down, that's part of it. Part of it is you being a parent and wanting the best for your kid. But a part of it is selfish, and that's the part people got to realize. It's just like, how could they do this? I'm not shocked. Number one, historically, I don't read or engage in a lot of slave stuff anymore. I just refuse to, because I don't feel I can learn anymore from it. As much as a lot of people around me are so upset and shocked, I'm like, the extent of evil in human beings, I'm not shocked by. Same thing with rich people. I'm not shocked by this. They want status. And so, yes, you got the money to do it, and you got the mental distortion to say status is enough. Yeah, you're going to do it. And so I wasn't really shocked by it. The ugly part, it's a lot of ugly to it, but people like money. Money makes the world go around. Cash rules everything around me. Everything is ran by money. So you're talking about people doing the SAT, ACT, being bribed. Yes, not shocking. You're talking about athletics being bribed. Not shocking at all. But let alone row team, crew team, lacrosse team. Like, I never gave credence to people complaining about elite sports that most minorities aren't able to play and how that helps them get into school. I didn't give credence to that. I'm like, whatever. They have the right to value whatever sport they want to value. Nobody's talking about Florida State, a state school that is a big time football program, and they value football, which everybody can play, but people want to cry about Princeton and the road team. That's how I felt until this. They were using these teams, these weird random sports, as a reason to get these people in. So overall, which I didn't really explain, celebrities or anybody could pay this college group to give you a list of colleges and they would find a way to get you in, whether it was massaging and working over a counselor, whether it was working over an athletics team that say, hey, pretend this is an athlete, which gives them more accreditation, or whether it was flat out cheating and having somebody take their test for them. And so understand with elite schools, elite Ivy League schools, legacy is big. If you had a parent that went there and a donor, that's huge. But at the same time, sports, that's the way to get diversity. Because look, they would love, I wouldn't say they would love, I'm sorry. People would like to get minorities into Ivy League schools, but they can't because the test in the education system is biased towards a certain group. And so if you want the highest numbers, you got to get the most majority people. However, sports is a way to cut that in half and to say, yeah, they don't have a great GPA, but we want them for sports and athletics. Let's bring them in. That was used as a way to bring in celebrity people who paid for it. And so that is concerning. I mean, again, before I didn't care what the elite sports did. Now I'm like, that's straight shady. If they get into the school, never play before they got into the school, you just lie. Like, there were people photoshopping different people's heads onto a different athlete's body. It's crazy. And so that is where I draw the line. Absolutely. Like, it's one thing to say, hey, I don't know, Kim Kardashian's daughter is just great at water polo and we're going to give her a scholarship. She's been documented as a beast in water polo. Cool. But if it comes out like, look, Kim Kardashian's daughter's never played water polo in her life, but I'm just doing it to get her into Yale. No, that's absolutely disrespectful. Not only to the athletes that didn't get into the school, but to the school overall. I mean, I get it. I work in admissions. You need money. You need money to run these things. Donors go a long way. If they were saying people paying $500,000 to get the test cheated on, to get all these things. Why not just give $500,000 to the state school or the public school or the good school in the area and get your kid in that way? Like, there's a lot of ways to smooth people over. I don't think it's right. And I'm glad certain schools like the one I work at have different mechanisms to make sure people aren't just being let in. But if you are a school, because frankly, if you're a private school and an Ivy League school, you got different rules. You don't got to follow state rules all the time. And so if you're that type of school, just like give the money to the school, because at least to me, if I say I'm going to give $500,000 to the post-secondary group and they're going to find different ways to guarantee my kid gets in, that sounds shady. Who knows what they're going to do with that? They could buy a bunch of crystal meth, shoot up. They could snort it, put it in a butt. Who knows? But at least if I say I'm going to give $500,000 directly to the university, and if that helps influence the decision, cool. At least I know the university, for the most part, is going to take that and redistribute that into the education my family is getting and the other people are getting. I do think there were negative intentions behind this, as far as being a primal helicopter parent, as far as just trying to make yourself look good. But number one, I think the issue with, not number one, but I think one of the issues with the parents, celebrities that got duped, I wouldn't even say duped, that ended up deciding to do this, is that they were kind of thinking they weren't just helping their kid, they were helping other people. And it was like, oh, because rich people love being philanthropists. It feels no one's heart more them in a white savior. And so I feel like a lot of celebrities and people, a lot of times are just like, look, I'm going to give y'all this money to the school. Y'all figure it out. Yes, I'm going to benefit by having my kid in. My kid is going to benefit. And then one day they're going to benefit me. But also with all that money, you can do great things at the school for some of these other kids. And so I'm more giving charity than I am cheating the system. And I think that mental distortion is how people justify it sometimes. So, I mean, overall, to me, I'm not shocked. Again, the things they do for athletes to get them in is far worse. And rich people that want status, that want their family to be in the best, not shocked that they will use money and power to get people in. Overall, the college conversation, is it worth it? I think absolutely yes. And I might have fell off of that point a little bit. But overall, I think yes. I just think about, I always say the number one thing you get in college is a network. And that's true. That's why people want to go to big name schools. You get a network of people that you can contact in the future. But there's a lot of valuable lessons you learn just about a person. And it's not just academic facts. It's how to persevere, how to be resilient, how to be resourceful. And some people flunk out, and I think that's okay. Like, you gotta weed the weak ones out, and maybe one day they get back on the horse, but you weed them out. It's like, you can't just joke here. You can't just act the fool. You gotta 100% be invested. And for the most part, and like, you can have fun. I had a lot of fun, but you gotta be invested to use your resources. And is what's going to get you to not only succeed in college, but once you get out of college, that's what's going to get you to the next job. That's what's going to get you to the next level, is when you continue to build a network of people that you can rely on. And yeah, I mean, I've been talking for a long time, and there's more we could talk about, but I just think education truly is the key. We focus sometimes on the flash in the pan. Oh, such and such went viral on YouTube and make this much, or such did this. And it's like, okay, well, I can do it. And that's fine. I'm happy we got new avenues, but that's not the norm. The norm of who's rich and powerful that can make changes in today's world are the ones that go the traditional route. And if we're going to change the traditional ideas, we gotta go the traditional route. And so there's going to be basketball players, there's going to be rappers, there's going to be YouTube influencers, whatever. But we need more and more people seeing education as a viable option. Whether it's 2-year, whether it's certificate. Look, you get a CDL, drive a truck, you can make $100,000+ a year. That's a lot more than I'll probably ever make. And so you absolutely, in my mind, you need to value education in any form, because that's what's going to take us to the next level. Anyway, I talked a lot about it. Go to the comment section. Let me know what you think about college in general, what you think about the scandal. Share it around, get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe, and until next episode.